I'll be talking about the routes a little more in the spoiler section. This is more on how parts that lead up to it and little things during it. So for the two chaos slash bet endings, you're basically a pawn that does the bidding of whoever is in charge at that point. Technically the country is running better in a twisted way, just things could have been better in most ways. But the common people don't really notice it and are like, hey, we're not being taxed as much and we're not broke or die from hunger. It's like, hey, it works out fine, right? What's kind of ass is the main bad is Mieta for a good chunk of the time. And the difference between the two routes is if you decide to directly go after the king or meet the person Mieta as the party to talk to. They both lead to a similar outcome in the end, just the epilogue is different. And I like the route where you meet the extra person because she has like maximum hater energy, and I felt like it was like Dave Chappelle's like skit with the haters ball things, like it was pretty funny. Outside of the epilogue, everything between the castle and the ending is pretty much the same. There was actually a part where the game for some reason didn't expect me to get the final party member and made me go back to the ruins just to see nothing. But they talk like the party did because technically they did hours ago when I got the last party members. Like, okay, kind of worthless. Anyways, the two evil ladies are hot, or I find haters and the toxic assholes attractive because Alvino is also one of my favorite characters from the main cast. The two good routes branch out a lot further than the previous two. The only extra step is you have to actually recruit one of the last characters that comes out right at the end of the like open world section, except why it branches because of it doesn't make much sense. It makes sense on why you need that character for the finale, but until then there was not much of a reason why the plans changed that much. I guess the main thing is if you pick the wrong choice and don't go to the dungeon, then that unlocks the character. It's like saying, hey, you started your plans a day or two earlier and that made all the difference. The funny thing is the plot still talks about how the party's still really wary of Mieta, even though like 90% of her events can only be seen if you do the chaos choices. And I don't remember if I ever mentioned it where just doing one of those choices or options already locks you into the bad branch. So it's like, I know Mieta is a character you should look out for. Mark shouldn't have anything outside of like intuition. They're like, oh yeah, there's something going on with her. They kind of did something similar in the true route like they did in Labyrinth Meister, just nowhere near as clean because it was more of a reveal in that one. This one's like it was obvious. A lot of the villains are really like in your face in this title and it's like pretty funny for it. But for the more serious people, they're going to be like, holy shit, all these people are very like cartoonishly evil in one note. Another thing is there's technically more content in the bad routes where a specific dungeon opens up further on. Like the initial dungeon felt like there should have been more, and because there was, you just don't see it unless you go into this route. And while going through the expanded dungeon, you fight this like DPS check boss that later on reveals one of the super bosses. And I've only seen this one and another one from another location, well excluding the like new game plus content where you fight what I think is like the highest level unit in the game. It'd be cool if Route A would incorporate the DPS check like in the middle of the true route or something, because the idea is that they're trying to use the shit that they take from the ruins, but maybe the idea is more around like the super boss. Haven't really gotten back and killed that one, but considering the one I did gave no extra content, it probably is going to be the same thing for this one. The Loser Labyrinth is a staple of the series. It's a place you go to speed up the grinding of the game in exchange of like calling you a loser, lazy, or like a deadbeat or something like that. And they place a label for the rest of your run and just remind you of what you did. And the only way you remove is by killing like the final boss of that dungeon. That's normally way too hard for your first run, sometimes even the second run. This time it's a complete trap. I left it alone this time around. Like, let me like not use it for once, right? And I went into it in the second run to kill like the boss. Okay, maybe I'm strong enough. And it's like, hell no, I'm super weak. It was way better than like my level 30s. And the thing is, there's only 2 floors compared to like the usual like 5 to 8 floors, and enemy units are useless after being like level 8 or something. It's like, holy crap, this was a huge trap. At most, it speeds up the process of getting like money in your first run until you can do some mining. The new thing about it is you can use all of the items you can get from the dungeons to supposedly power up the new game plus boss to make it even harder, which I didn't know about until I already beat that thing. I also wouldn't do it. I already had a hard enough time and had to grind like 10 levels to even not get one shot on it. Throughout the game and the maps, there's a couple mini games that you do to gather like materials, or rather you do it because it's way faster than getting drops from like enemies, because the drop rate is pretty damn terrible at times. Like, why would you waste 10 minutes farming harpies or hounds if you can get the same materials in like 30 seconds as long as you don't suck on the minigame? So there's hunting, harvesting, mining, and fishing. Hunting is target practice. Some of the fields need specific bows, but overall it's a pretty fun time for what it is. Harvesting is pretty boring where you're just moving around and slashing grass while dodging like monsters at a go from side to side. Mining is like reverse minesweeper, and this is where you make all the big money after you invest this first on like some extra picks. But you actually can't mine for a while until you get the like looting start in your party, and at that point you already went through like 3 maps that has like the mining icon, and you just had to leave it. Honestly, it was taking so long that I thought maybe it was like some kind of like key item check that I had to get, and I just missed it so far. And then there's fishing, where I don't know what the purpose for it is. You have a fishing spot right at the start, and there's a lot all over the places, but you can't do it until you either get like Earnest or do a specific event with Earnest. I'm not sure which, I forgot. Either the items you get are shit, are okay, but you already have better items, or sometimes even items that do a lot, but like cause a status ailment on you. It's like, alright, what's the point of this, right? And I thought maybe it's okay, I could throw these items to the enemies, but you can't. Like, oh, that's normally like a thing you can do in Final Fantasy. And here, like, no, screw you. It's a costly minigame as well if you end up trying to get like everything for your like item list. I never felt worth it. Maybe there's like, because I didn't do a lot of it, I did maybe like a quarter of the items for that. So maybe there's like some really good items I just don't know about. Technically, there's also like a sorting minigame that's right at the end. And at that point, you already make more than enough money with the mining, so it was kind of worthless. And there's also 2 or 3 like slide puzzles, and holy shit, why are these even here? I suck at these so much, and these take forever even with like the damn guide. You think the loot would be amazing for how long it takes to finish one, but no, it's like stuff you already have from before. And I think even one was like obsolete when I got to it. It's like, holy crap. And it's like, wow, you guys are assholes. Why'd you even put this in here? There's only like 2 new game plus content from what I can tell, and there's other stuff where you can technically beat in the first run if you just grind it for ages, because it's either like super bosses or like ultimate equipment that requires you to be level 50 or so. There's no notification for that. I assume those things were actually going to be like new game content with its own plot, because the party just couldn't do anything with those items. And then when I was like level 35 with the character that could equip that item, it mentioned like, oh, they're resonating with the item but nothing can be done yet. I'm like, okay, maybe it's some story content, and it's not. Then I was thinking is like, hey, maybe it's like specifically just for a true route, and there's gonna be like a whole sequence of the party going through all these like old maps. But it's like, no, it's just getting to a really high level. At least it's better than just like being like, oh yeah, you need to do like 3 or 4 runs to unlock it for no reason. Anyways, throughout the maps, you sometimes see sections that you can interact with, but you don't know what it's for. I thought they were going to be like teleports to some like higher level maps in the true route, but all it does is drop an item that Ysheli wants. Ysheli is the mascot of the company, and this time she lost all her cleaning supplies, so you get them all and she joins your party, and she's a beast. She can basically beat the game for you outside of the final new game plus like boss and stuff. That's it. But that's kind of her thing. She's generally close to or like the actual strongest character in all these games. The final new game plus boss is like the only real new content of the game. It's pretty barren compared to the rest of the Ysheli games. You follow a new guy back into the Royal Ruins, and you go through like 8 different trials where it's just like new puzzles, and these are all fun. They're overall really fun time, except for the one that was like a combat arena, and I was like still 10 levels under leveled, but I beat it outside of the final one. That was complete bullshit, and I just sent Ysheli to kill it because she was like 10 levels ahead of everything. The rest is just beating a new boss and just another like Solomon demon. They love using these things in their games, and this one's pretty well integrated to the plot, or rather how the kingdom was made and what the king was about before he became like Budgie Kinzo. So hey, that was actually really fun. It wasn't the best one. It's probably still near the bottom, but it was not bad. So like I mentioned before, the Hscenes weren't actually a thing in the base game. They were added later on, and I don't know if a lot of people just raged over to the point they're like, alright, fine, so if we can recoup our sales, we're gonna put some in. And there's like 40 of them, holy crap. This is probably the reason why it's the first one that got pushed onto Steam as well, because like it's all ages, so it'll work fine. Anyways, they were actually like handled pretty well. They give you a notice when they unlock, and it's generally like after a story beat from one of the character events, when you finish one of the events in like a specific town, or after you finish the whole route, right? And it's something that happens right after the event is done. It's something they could do for the rest of the titles if they decide to push the rest of them on Steam. Yeah, I'll need some code, but overall it's like, it shouldn't be that hard. It's mainly ripping them out and just putting them in the title screen. I mainly like the ones from Alvina and Vera. There's a couple of random ones where it's just an H scene with like a woman from the brothels that were based on this dude's like, oh, we're drinking, and then this happened, and that's it. It's like, alright, these were kind of whatever. And there's one where like I'm pretty sure you have to actively try to get into Mieda's pants and keep agreeing with her. The ones with like Amazons had like such a bullshit fight, but I'm pretty sure it's because you're intended to fight it like in a New Game Plus thing and be like level 40 instead of me being like level 25 or something. She was still one-shotting me after the power-up even at like level 32 in my New Game Plus thing, and it's like, alright. Like the one with Alvina actually stopped being a problem at 30, but the Amazon one did not. The ones with the final characters are also pretty funny, and then become sweet later on. Like the first one, she's like following Mark, and she's like, wait, why are you wasting all this money going to the brothels? I'm right here. It's like, what the fuck? Yeah, and he's just like, oh yeah, good point. Like she was like, yeah, you're being inefficient with your money. We could use those funds for other things. Overall, it's on the bottom half of the showy titles that I've played, and with how much profanity I've sent it at times, it's probably my lowest, but that's because I refuse to grind. But really, why was there a random level spike near the end anyway? The open world part did more harm than good. The lack of any party cohesion for a massive chunk of the game didn't help because it didn't flag who is and who isn't in your team, so at times it felt like most of your party just vanished. By the second half of the missions, it finally assumes you have the rest of the party members, and events do get better because of it. I wonder if they have a check on the later levels, like if someone cheated in 30 levels and they did all like one town's missions, would they just let you do the missions and assume the other guys are in your party even though they're not? And then you're like, who the fuck is this? I never saw this guy. So that's pretty funny. A lot of the characters are so charming to the point that maybe it's the best part of the game, like how the reason why I enjoyed Rhapsody God was for the characters, and I'd rated it a lot lower if it was just focused on the plot because, oh boy, that was not great. I'm giving it around a middling 6. It might have been like a 5 if we got what was originally released over there without like the extra features. There's a lot of stuff that makes the title way better if you already play like Alchemy Meister, especially with Yuidora, because it's always like, oh shit, I remember that blowing up, or oh, they're mentioning that part of the plot, or like, oh, that's why those assholes are already there trying to invade, right? Or like, oh yeah, this is where this country was originally at. So all of those parts are great, and if you really cared about it, then it can be like a 7 just for that, but otherwise it's more like a 6. It's one of those things where they could technically cut like half the map out if they really wanted to do the like open world thing. Like there could have been a whole game where it's just about the feud between Amarasi and Lashimur or something. And like every few chapters it can go back to about how the king is just being a dick in Santaria. Or they could have removed those two and it's just about like Yuidora getting fucked over by Santaria, and the whole title would be about like Yuidora's foundation and why everything was set up in the way it was. And that actually does that in this title in the middle of everything else. It's one of the better parts, but it's like it's kind of toned down from everything else. So I guess the better way to say it was that it was pretty ambitious and tried for too many things instead of just focusing on one specific zone of the kingdom. Like, I get not wanting to make like another prequel for Alchemy Meister, it makes sense. I guess another way to look at it is that this title is shorter than most of the other Shelley titles, and yeah, it's not that much less eventful because the gaming loop is just kind of gone and more, it's just like an old school RPG, so a lot of the time wasting is gone, but that's part of the gaming loop and that's what made it fun, and this one is very grindy if you really want to be on the same levels of like the final bosses, which you're gonna have to spend like a couple hours if you really want to. It's still around like 80 to 90 hours long, unless you spend some time grinding in like the more inefficient areas. And while the enemy drop rate is pretty ass, everything you can gather outside of combat was kind of like more forgiving than how much you have to do in like the other titles, since you need like a new set of materials for each new copy of gear you want. And this one, you just have to waste money. Basically, you just have to ask yourself if it's worth like spending that much time on one VN where there's just better stuff to read or play. I've still had fun with it, but I'm biased towards you, Shelley. I don't know why they keep my attention more than some of the other like more popular JRPGs where a lot of them like halfway through I'm like, all right, I'm done. I had fun, it's fine. If I had this kind of consistency with reading with everything else, I'd get like 50 VNs done per year, but that'd kill my social life, so I guess it's a good thing that it doesn't. So it's time for the spoilers. I'm already tired of talking, so I'll be keeping it brief and not talk about everything. I called the king Budget King, so because half the time you see him having lines, it's either him barking out orders for his ritual or screaming out his dead wife's name, Lisette. And it's like, it's to the point where it's like, I think from you, Minako, it's like, oh, Beatrice, and this was, oh, Lisette. Like, I was like, okay, I see the resemblance. And the whole thing why he's upping the taxes is because he needs funds to get the Royal Knights to keep going through these ruins to get like these mechanized tools for Media to trade for how to make the ritual work. And the whole ritual is about resurrecting his wife, but the ritual requires someone with their blood to be sacrificed for it. So the knights are trying to get the tools alongside trying to find his daughter Violetta, since she went into hiding because like the other prince Cedric was like, hey, you're gonna have to go hiding. She was like, all right, I'll go hiding, it's fine. Which might sound dumb, but it's fine because in her mind it's like, hey, I like have some fun in the other towns. Violetta goes by Vio, and she would be a fun character in most other scenarios, but she's really dumb as bricks and never understands her situation, and it's part of the setting because the noble women are just used as like political pawns where they're married off and nothing else. Yeah, I don't know who she is, but she gets so many scenes. It's to the point I think she's like in some other kind of game in there, or like she's someone's parent in a different game or something. Because holy shit, why does she have so many scenes? I understand that she's important to the plot, but it's like even by the end of the epilogue, she's there again. It's like, you're still here. Holy, you are the least important character in this plot. Why are you always around? The final character you get right before the open world section ends is Acelia. Well, her name is actually Assemblia or something, but her Sophia said Acelia is cuter, and Acelia agrees, like, alright, I'm gonna use that name. She's a combat android, and she's really into following orders that usually goes for combat. So it's a reoccurring joke where she suggests to, like, eliminate the target, and Mark's like, hey, cool down, we can try talking to them first. And she's kind of like down about it, like, why can't I just shoot my lasers? Because it would make me so useful. It's like, why are you denying that? So the idea around her events is her being confused about all this free time that she gets, and eventually hence she helps out random people out. Like the one time where she's just like lifting heavy as the breeze, and they're happy. It's like, holy shit, she's so strong, and she's oh, they like me because I'm strong. So later on she kills off all these monsters and gets more praise, and she's like, yeah, I was right, doing combat is the efficient way, everybody's happy about me doing this. Only to do that again and really fuck things over, and she doesn't understand why they're not happy when she removed the issue. So it's a series of events about Acelia trying to find what she wants to do, and she wants to take the easy way out here and there, but Mark keeps nudging her back, like, hey, just keep on trying to see what you actually like. I don't know if she's in any other titles either. The only reason she's important in the true route is where she rips off this like important reactor from this robot and tells the party to keep it. So right at the end of the finale, they use that piece to unfuse the final boss, and that's it. Like, all right, I understand why you're important, but like technically I can say like, oh, Ludensturg has enough intuition to keep it or something, and you wouldn't need this character anymore. Mieta gets a lot of her scenes cut out if you go for the true route, and I mean around like all but 1 or 2 scenes until the branching happens. The routes are very like all or nothing, where even one wrong choice leads you to the bad ending. So if you chose all like the obvious good answers in your first run, it'd be kind of jarring how important Mieta becomes when you see her as like 3 scenes max. The idea behind it is that she's like a highly bewitching character, and any kind of interaction with her is going to lead you to ruin. So it makes sense that basically all her scenes are cut off, or you get the bad ending. It's like, it makes sense, right? It's more that the main bad should have been revealed a lot earlier in the good routes, because that run doesn't make Mieta look impressive at all. Lastly, there's Setia, the second princess. She's a massive hater throughout the whole title, and that's basically her personality. She knows the queen wasn't her real mom and thinks her mom is dead. It turns out that Sophia's dad is the king, and Setia has the same mom as Sophia. Basically, they're sisters, and everybody else are half-siblings. Anyways, Setia is naive in a way that she believes that her real mom would have stormed the castle if she was really alive. Like, no shit, she couldn't have done that, she would die immediately. So Setia's whole ambition is to nuke the country to the ground, but more specifically to wipe the Gelatry bloodline, or how you pronounce her names, I forgot, off the planet, including her own. So she's like the main character for the expanded bad ending, where Mark does for her what Alvina does for Lucrecia, killing off anyone that would get in her way, alongside Mark keeping tabs on Setia. Because all Mark cares about is keeping the country running along, making like Setia not becoming like her dad. And it's something around that he's not as corrupted as he is in Media's bad ending. Setia's Hscenes are also pretty good, and she mauls out when there's like a possibility that she can get pregnant because she doesn't want her blood to continue at all. And that's about it. This one way longer than expected. I think the character section was what really overkilled everything. I think this part maybe will be like only 20 minutes, so I think I split things wrong, but whatever, fuck it. I thought maybe it would be a little longer than it is. I'm finishing up Despair Drops right now. It's I cut it like halfway through because I was playing this one, the Wayblazer, right? And I finished a couple more rounds. I think I have only 2 more to go. It's not great. I find it kind of boring at times, right? But overall, it's fine. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I have no idea what I'm doing next. I might talk about, like, I forgot what's called, like Sosaku or something. It was fun. I liked it a lot until the common ended. And I was like, this kind of, I wouldn't say it sucks because there's like a route or two that are fine, but overall, it's like it never hit the same peak what I thought the common was.